Have you ever wondered what happens when we close our eyes for the last time? It's a question that has haunted humanity since we first gained consciousness of our own mortality. I'm fascinated by how throughout history, different cultures have created elaborate visions of what awaits us beyond death, some beautiful, some terrifying, and all profoundly revealing about what those societies valued most. Today, we're going to journey through some of the most compelling afterlife beliefs from around the world, not just the familiar concepts from mainstream religions, but also lesser-known traditions that offer unique perspectives on what might await us. What's particularly interesting is how these beliefs reflect the values, fears, and hopes of the societies that created them. The way we envision the afterlife says more about how we live than how we die. So let's explore these ancient answers to our most modern anxieties. We'll start in ancient Egypt, where the afterlife wasn't just a spiritual concept but a cultural obsession. For Egyptians, death was merely a transition to another realm, but only if you could pass judgment. The heart of the deceased would be weighed against a feather representing Maat, the goddess of truth and justice. If your heart was heavier than the feather, weighed down by sins and wrongdoings, it would be devoured by Emmet, a fearsome creature part crocodile, part lion, and part hippopotamus. This wasn't just eternal punishment, it was complete obliteration of the soul. But if your heart balanced perfectly against the feather, you'd enter the field of reeds, a perfect mirror image of life on earth, except without hardship or pain. The Egyptians didn't dream of golden streets or endless pleasures. They simply wanted more of the life they already knew, perfected and eternal. This is why they were buried with their possessions, food, and even servants, represented by Ashabti figurines, because the afterlife wasn't abstract, but a tangible continuation of earthly existence. What's fascinating is how democratic the Egyptian afterlife eventually became. Initially, only pharaohs could achieve immortality, but gradually these beliefs expanded to include nobles and eventually ordinary citizens. Death became the great equalizer, where even the humblest farmer could achieve what pharaohs desired if they lived according to Maat. Now, contrast this with the ancient Norse concept of the afterlife. For these warrior societies of Scandinavia, death on the battlefield was the highest honor. Those who died with a weapon in hand would be carried by Valkyries to Valhalla, Odin's great hall, where they would feast, fight, and drink mead until Ragnarök, the end of days when they would join the gods in their final battle. But what's less commonly discussed is that Valhalla wasn't the only Norse afterlife. Women, children, and those who died of old age or illness went to hell, not a place of punishment as in Christian belief, but simply a cold, misty realm ruled by the goddess of the same name. Some stories suggest that Freya, goddess of love and fertility, claimed half of the battlefield dead for her own hall, Folkvanger. The Norse afterlife wasn't one-size-fits-all, but reflected the diverse roles people played in their society. Before I continue with our third fascinating afterlife belief, I want to take a moment to invite you to join our community of curious minds. If you're enjoying this exploration of humanity's most profound questions, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Each week, we delve into topics that challenge our understanding of history, culture, and the human experience, the kind of conversations that stay with you long after the video ends. Now, let's travel to Mesoamerica, where the Aztec concept of the afterlife was uniquely complex. Unlike many traditions where your moral conduct determined your fate, for the Aztecs, how you died dictated your afterlife destination. Warriors who died in battle, women who died in childbirth considered a form of battle, those struck by lightning, or those who drowned would go to Tonatiuhcan, the paradise of the sun god. Talokan, the paradise of the rain god Tlaloc, awaited those who died from water-related illness, lightning, or specific skin conditions. Most others went to Miquen, a 9-layered underworld reached only after a grueling 4-year journey filled with challenges like crossing mountains that crashed together, fields of knives, and frigid winds. This wasn't punishment for sins, but simply the common fate of most humans. The Aztec afterlife reflected their view of life itself, demanding, often harsh, with different paths determined largely by circumstances beyond one's control. In stark contrast, Traditional Chinese afterlife beliefs centered around ancestor veneration within a complex bureaucratic structure. The Chinese underworld, Diyu, operated like an enormous court system where the dead were judged and sentenced to one of many hells for purification before reincarnation. These weren't eternal punishments, but temporary corrections, much like prison sentences, tailored to specific misdeeds. What makes this system remarkable is its inherent belief in redemption. Family members could ease a deceased relative suffering through offerings, prayers, and proper funeral rituals. The living maintained responsibility for the dead, reflecting China's deep emphasis on family bonds extending beyond death itself. During the annual Hungry Gust Festival, families would prepare elaborate feasts for ancestors, burn paper money, and leave the front doors open to welcome ancestral spirits home, acknowledging that the boundary between living and dead remained permeable. Finally, let's examine Indigenous Australian Dreamtime beliefs, where the distinction between life and afterlife isn't nearly as rigid as in Western traditions. For many Aboriginal groups, the spirit exists before birth and continues after death, returning to the land or to specific sacred sites. The afterlife isn't a distant realm, but the spiritual dimension of the world we already inhabit. When someone dies, elaborate mourning rituals help guide the spirit away from the community to prevent it from lingering and causing harm to the living. But this separation isn't permanent. Ancestors remain active participants in community life, providing guidance through dreams and signs. What's profound about this worldview is that it doesn't separate the physical from the spiritual. The land itself is alive with the stories and spirits of those who came before. These 5 distinct visions of what happens after death, Egyptian, Norse, Aztec, Chinese, and Indigenous Australian, demonstrate humanity's remarkable creativity in facing our greatest unknown. But they also reveal something deeper. Our afterlife beliefs are mirrors reflecting what we value most in life itself. The Egyptians cherished order and justice. The Norse honored courage and loyalty. The Aztecs accepted the rule of fate and circumstance. The Chinese prioritized family relationships and moral development. And Aboriginal Australians celebrated their profound connection to the land and community across time. Understanding these diverse perspectives doesn't require us to adopt any particular belief. Instead, it invites us to reflect on our own values. What kind of afterlife would reflect what matters most to you? Is it reunion with loved ones? Justice for wrongs? Peace after struggle? Or perhaps simply becoming part of the natural cycle of the universe once more? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What aspects of these afterlife beliefs resonate with you, or what traditions from your own cultural background have shaped your thinking? Leave a like if you found this journey cures humanity's great beyond thought-provoking, and subscribe if you want to continue exploring the profound questions that connect us across time and culture. And before you go, check the description below for ways to support this channel and help us continue bringing these in-depth explorations to life. Until next time, remember that by understanding how others have faced mortality throughout history, we might find new ways to appreciate the precious time we have here and now.